Right. Am I audible to all of you guys? Yes, no? Can you hear me or not? Are you people here or not? Who are these? There's Akshay, Shunali, and
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
okay, all right. So we'll start for today. We're going to discuss clauses and clause structure and types of subordinate clauses. I hope you have taken a look at the ones who haven't attended the class, have taken a look at the adverbs that we discussed in the last class, right? So all those topics are important for you as far as exam is concerned, and a better understanding of it will definitely help you also. Today we are going to take up clauses and clause structure. I'll see if we can finish it off, maybe also discuss types of subordinate clauses. In case it doesn't and it gets extended to the next class, then we'll, I mean, of course, we'll do it that way, which means the discussion on model verbs would be a little late. Okay. But I don't think you have it for the exam. You don't have model verbs for the quiz one, right? You have the first one, which I remember, discourse markers and rhythm and figures of speech and all of that, and then adverbs and clauses, right? Models, I think, is week 5 or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, if that's the case, I think we have enough time to discuss this one. I'll also recheck once and see what the is. What is week 4 for you? It is already released, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what is week 4 again?
How to argue and how to
Ah, yeah.
influence.
Okay. So it's basically like a uh, skill course, skill module, right? So, which means I am right. This probably should be the grammatical component for all your question. Okay. So we start with this one, clauses and clause structure. We will begin with a preliminary discussion. Although, I mean, I am sure a lot of you are, ideally all of you would have watched the lectures and you have an idea. So you will tell me, I'll ask you a few questions, and if the answers are satisfactory, then I'll decide to move on to the question. If not, we'll spend some time trying to understand what these basic terms are, right? So, clauses and clause structure. So, you begin with clause. Of course, the question on what is a clause, right? So, what do you understand by clause? What is your, how do you differentiate it from a phrase, say? So, you have a phrase and you have a clause. What is it that differentiate these two? When will you call something a clause, and when will you call something a phrase? You can just give me an example. That also works. If you're not confident with the explanation part, that's fine. You can just tell me, just give me an example, and that should be fine.
Ma'am, can you ask your question again?
Sorry.
Can you ask your question again?
Yeah, the question is, give me an example for a phrase and a clause. I basically want to know if you know what a clause and phrase is. So just give me an example for both of them. Let's start with the phrase. Just give me an example for a phrase.
I had a car.
Okay, I had a car is a phrase. If this is a phrase, then what is a clause then?
Clear about clause, but I'm not clear about phrase.
You're clear about clause, but you're not clear about phrase. But the example you gave me is that of a clause. It's not a
Yes,
phrase.
ma'am. Independent clause.
So I had a car as an example of a clause. So what is a phrase? So phrases can make up clause, right? Not all the time. Just putting together phrases randomly will not help. Of course, regulated combinations of phrases give you clauses. That's true. But the fundamental difference between these two would be that the clause will always carry a verb, right? Verb is a compulsory element. Some people would also say subject and verb, but more than anything else, right, for a segment to be called a clause, it needs to essentially have a verb in it. If there is no verb, then you cannot qualify that given segment as a clause. But a phrase doesn't require any of these. So phrase can be either a noun phrase, it can be a prepositional phrase, it can be an adverbial phrase, it can be an adjective phrase, right? So if you have something like a car, right? This is what you call as a noun phrase. If you have a new car, then you can call it as an adjective phrase. Or if you have something like, uh, I like mango. So, like mango is your verb phrase, right? And I go for a walk in the morning. In the morning is your prepositional phrase. But you'll notice that in all of these, there's an absence of a proper verb that shows action or shows state and condition, right? So if the verb is absent, then you cannot call it a phrase or a clause. You don't call it what? The verb is absent. You don't call it a.
Phrase.
If
You
the
don't
verb
call
is
it a
absent,
clause.
you don't call it a clause, right? If the verb is absent, then you do not get to call it as a clause. So then, verb becomes the fundamental element in deciding between whether a given segment is a phrase or a clause. Okay. So this should be the basic understanding, right? Now, in certain, like I already told you, certain maybe even in our lecture itself, or even other texts that you probably would refer, it would also say it should a clause should have a subject and a verb, right? But remember that verb is the fundamental, right? Even when you have a subject, but then there's no properly defined verb, again the clause becomes a disturbing part, right? It's difficult to classify something that way. Verb is what it gives the characteristics of a clause to the given segment, right? Now, that is that. Now we're going to, now that we've decided upon what can be called a clause and what cannot be called a clause, the next thing to look at is what kind of clauses do you have? So you, I think, rightly mentioned in the beginning that I had a car. This is an independent clause, right? Now, what is this independent and dependent? Can you comment on this? Independent,
In
dependent.
independent, which don't need anything else, and dependent,
Hmm.
which is dependent on any verb or any other clause or sentence.
Okay, partly right. So independent is something that can stand on its own, right? Which is complete in itself. That should be a better way of understanding it. If the sentence or the given clause is complete in itself, which means it has a subject, it has a verb, and it has an object, or maybe says just says subject and predicate, right? If the given sentence or the given clause has both a subject as well as a predicate, giving us complete information and complete meaning in itself, then it is called an independent clause, right? But if you feel that the given segment has a verb, has a subject, but still it is not giving me a full meaning, it still looks incomplete, then this is called a dependent clause, which means this clause is dependent on another independent clause to complete its sense, right? So that's how it works. Dependent clauses are always dependent on the independent clauses for making full sense, giving full meaning, to give its complete sense, right? That's how you understand it. Just to give you example, so the one that you gave me was I had a car, right? Or I have a car, whatever it is. I have a car. Okay. So this is independent. And then if I have to, have a dependent clause with this, I have a car. Can you give me a sentence which is which contains a dependent clause? See, for example, I have a car which is, which I have been using for ages now. For example, this is your sentence. Like I have a car which I've been using for ages now. Now, which part of this is independent? Which part of this is dependent?
Independent, I have a car.
Yes.
Uh, Dependent, I have
Ah,
been using for ages now.
which I have been using, right? You cannot ignore the which part because including that part is going to be your dependent. If I say I have been using for ages now, it still looks like a grammatically okay sentence, although it doesn't give you, you can ask what have you been using for ages. That's a different story. But still, I have been using for ages now is still something that can be counted grammatical. But that's not the case with which I have been using for ages now, right? Which I have been using for ages now is an outright incomplete sentence, right? So do not forget to include that marker for dependency, right? The clause becomes dependence because of the presence of the word which there. Okay. Now, this is why you will have to look at this thing in a little different way. So, dependent and independent clauses is not strictly a technical term because it does not help you explain the whole process properly, which is why in most of the I think most of the grammar books these days they use the term subordinate, right? Why subordinate? The word subordinate clause doesn't it originates from the use of the subordinating conjunction like which or what or where or how or that. The most commonly used one is that. Okay. Uh, so usage of the subordinating conjunction is what has rendered the use of the term subordinate clause, right? So you will see these people, using these terms once in a while. So it's either dependent or independent clause. You'll hear people saying main clause and subordinate clause, okay, or principal clause and subordinate clause. Certain other I think modern linguistics, especially, would also use words like matrix clause and embedded clause. Okay, you probably would have heard this in the lecture, right? Matrix and embedded. So matrix basically is like the matrix, like the larger, main clause, within which is the embedded or the subordinate or the dependent clause. Okay, so they provide you a same sense of meaning, but the subordinate clause and main clause and metrics and embedded gives you more sense of how the sentence is constructed than the independent and dependent clause. Okay, so subordinating conjunctions are also part of your dependent clause or your subordinate clause or your embedded clause, whatever you want to call it. Right? Don't avoid that part when you are answering the question. A lot of time people do that. So, what is the subordinate clause in this sentence? If the question goes like this, then people would answer, I have been using for ages now. That's a wrong answer. You will have to start with which, because the presence of that subordinating conjunction is what makes it dependent on the other, what makes it subordinate to the other. Okay, I hope you've understood that part. Right. So this is about clause, then difference between independent, dependent, or principal, subordinate, or matrix and embedded clause. Okay. And then the third part comes on the types of subordinate clauses. So if you have a subordinate clause in a sentence, obviously you also have to see, what is the function it performs in that sentence, right? So you have the sentence with us. I have a car which I have been using for ages now. For people who have just joined, just take a look at these sentences. I'll probably repost it for you or something. Let's see if it's possible. We were looking at these two sentences. I'm going to paste it again in the chat for you. So take a look at this. I have a car and I have a car which I've been using for ages now, right? So the difference we just discussed. So I have a car is your independent clause. And the second sentence, I have a car which I have been using for ages now, is a sentence with a subordinate clause, and which I have been using for ages now is your subordinate clause, right? What kind of clause is this, and how do we understand what kind of clause this is? How do we understand? It's based on what function it performs. So usually there are three main categories of subordinate clauses we discuss. One is the adjectival clause. Second is the noun clause. And then you have what's the third one?
Adverbial.
Adverbial, right? So adjectival, then you have noun, and then you have adverbial, right? So as the names of the clauses suggest, they perform functions that are similar to an adjective, a noun, and an adverb. It's simple. It's quite simple to look at it in that sense. So if the given phrase, right, the given not phrase, sorry, the given clause, the subordinate clause acts like an adjective, then it's an adjectival clause. If it acts like an adverb, then adverbial. If it acts like a noun, then a noun clause, right? Simple to understand in this way. Now, the challenge is to figure out whether we can understand from the sentence whether it is acting as an adjective, noun, or adverbial or not, right? This is the main challenge. To understand it is simple. This is what the role is. When we mention kinds of or types of subordinate clauses, these are the three. These are the most commonly used three. Huh? There are other kinds of clauses also. We'll come to that a little later. But for the current session, for I think your quiz too, you need to have a better understanding of adjectival, noun, and adverbial clauses. Okay, based on the function of the subordinate clause. Now, if that is the case, then can you tell me? I have a car which I have been using for ages now. Which I've been using for ages now. What do you think its role is? Like, does it act as an adjective or a noun or an adverb? What do you
Noun.
think? Okay, if it is noun, then explain how it acts like a noun. Whatever your answer is, you need to explain why do you give me that answer. And others should also speak up, right? You don't have to be just, silently watching this. Sessions needn't be like a, a total teacher talk time. You will learn only when you have questions to ask and clear it off. Okay. You told me noun. Why do you think it is noun? How does this, which I
Well,
have been using
it
for
would
it?
be not noun, it would be adjectival because it's
Ah,
telling something uh,
ah,
something about the car.
correct. Okay. So rest of you are listening and not willing to participate with us. The answer is adjectival clause because this particular part, which I have been using for ages now, is an additional information about what? Which part of the sentence, which I've been using for ages now, is an additional information about what?
About
What
the
is it
car.
qualifying? Car, right? The car here. So I have a car. What kind of car? A car which I've been using for ages now. So, which I've been using for ages now is basically a modifier, an additional information about the car, which is a noun, right? Because car is a noun and it's an additional information about a noun, a modifier for the noun, we call it an adjective. That is the function of an adjective, right? Adjectives are modifiers of nouns, right? They help you add additional information, give additional information, or qualify a certain aspect of a noun, which is where this whole thing called the adjectival clause comes from. Okay. Understood why it is called an adjectival clause? Yes, no?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, can we have another one, which can we convert this sentence into in such a way that we have an adverbial clause? Let me try. You can also help me. So say something like, I have a car. Um, Okay, now look at this sentence. I have a car because I have long distances to travel. Okay, if this is the question that you have, this is not the question, the sentence, right? What change have I made to this? You can compare between these two. I have a car which I've been using for ages now. I have a car because I have long distances to travel. What am I doing in this? What is your subordinate clause in the sentence that I just wrote? I have a car because I have long distances to travel.
Because I have to travel long
Ah,
distances.
correct. So you have because I have long distances to travel. This is the change right now. What is this? Is this a subordinate clause still, or is it an independent clause? What is this? Is it independent or is it dependent? Because I have long distances to travel.
Dependent.
Dependent. It's still dependent, right? It's still dependent. So then this is also a subordinate clause. But how is this different from the previous sentence? The first sentence we looked at. I
Uh,
think I'll write them together so that it's easy for people to read it. Okay, look at it now. So, which I have been using for ages now because I have long distances to travel. Both are examples of subordinate clauses. First one, we decided that is adjectival subordinate clause because it gives you additional information about car, right? Second one, does it give you additional information about car? I have a car because I have long distances to travel.
No,
Is it additional
it,
information about car? No,
no,
right?
not really.
no, ma'am.
Not really. Not really. No. Okay. So then what is it doing? Because I have long distances to travel. What is that part doing?
Related to some verb.
What
Adverbial.
is it doing? What kind of information or what is it doing to the existing sentence? It's giving you reason, right? I thought you will say it. It's very easy to say. You have the word because. It's a universal word that you use in English to give reason. So it's reasoning on why. So it answers the question why. I have a car because I have long distances to travel. Now, if a clause answers the question why or how or where or under what conditions or in what manner, right? Then that particular clause is of what nature, which is the word, which is the part of speech which answers this question: how, when, why, for what reason, in what manner. Which does that? Which of the parts of speech?
Verb, ma'am.
Adverb.
Adverb, right?
Adverb.
Adverb. Adverb is the one which does that, right? You have adverbs of manner, adverbs of place, time, purpose, reason, right? So this is then what kind of a clause? This is an adverbial subordinate clause because it gives you the reason, right? It provides you reasons or conditions or manners or place or location or time of the action, right? So this is called an adverbial clause. Now there's one more that we need to look at, which is the noun clause. Can I change this to a noun clause?
Maybe.
No, I need another sentence from you. I'll look at it from my side, but I want you to also think about it. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, but if it looks like something that is similar to what we have already written, good and well enough. But no pressure. You can give some sentence which simply has a noun clause. That also works. Okay. Let me only try. Uh, Look at this sentence now.
She explained why she is late.
You have a. Sorry, are you saying something?
She has explained why she is late.
She has explained why she is late. She has explained why she is late. Okay. She has explained why she is late can also be she has explained. So which part is a noun clause here? She has explained why she is late. We'll come to this sentence a little later.
I
I have written it down, but let's look at the first one that we've written here. We'll come to this one. Okay, she has explained why she is late. The car that I own is so the sentence I have used is the car that I own is not new. Okay, the car that I own is not new. Now, do we have a subordinate clause in this to begin with?
no, ma'am.
We don't have a subordinate clause. Sure. Please look at it closely.
The car which
Ah, We have two subordinate clauses, in fact, in
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Huh. So you have two subordinate clauses. The first, what is, so from what you have understood till now, can you pick out the, forget about noun clause for the moment. Can you tell me if there are other clauses which you can detect? Give me at least one subordinate clause in that sentence.
Ma'am, noun clause that I own.
Is that I own a noun clause? Look at it carefully. The car that I own. So that I own is what? It's an adjectival clause, right? The car that I own. Which car? The car that I own, right? So you have two subordinate clauses in this sentence. The first subordinate clause would be this one, right? That I own. Okay. First one is that. And then you have another one, which is
It's not new.
the car that
The car is not new.
the car is not new. No. The car that I own. Okay. Look at this. I've please look at your chat for further explanation, right? So the first subordinate clause would be that I own, right? And what kind of clause is that? Adjectival. Okay. The first one is adjectival because it modifies the car, right? The car that I own. Which car? The car that I own. That I own is an adjectival subordinate clause. Then you have the car that I own. Now this one is a noun clause. Okay. This one is a noun clause. Now why is it a noun clause? The car that I own is not new. Why is
Ma'am,
the
can
car
you
that
repeat
I
your
own?
question again?
Sorry?
Can you repeat your question again?
The question is, why is the car that I own a noun clause? This is the noun clause in the sentence, right? Now, why is it called a noun clause? Can you guess it from the sentence? This is more like a structural. The answer is going to be more structural in nature, which means it's going to involve certain grammatical terms.
Is it
The car
replacing
that
the
I own
object?
is not. Sorry. What was it?
Is it replacing the object?
It's not replacing the object. In fact, it is the subject of the sentence, right? If you look at the car that I own is not new, right? Is not new, right? The car that I own is basically the subject of the sentence, right? Actually the car, but then you also have the adjectival that I own with it, right? So there are two separate clauses. The actual subject is the car, okay? And put together they're the car that I own, which is the
Because ma'am, it
actual
is
subject
working
of the
like a name.
it is looking like a name, exactly. So you can look at it that way, but on more grammatical terms, we would say that since it occupies the subject position in the sentence, and subjects and objects are usually what? They're usually either nouns or pronouns, right? You don't have adjectives as subjects. You can't have verbs as subjects or objects, right? Subjects in a sentence are always either a noun or a pronoun, right? So anything that takes up the place of the subject then is performing what you call as nominal functions, okay? Or nominal basically means noun-like, okay? Noun-like, it behaves like a noun. So here the subordinate clause behaves like a noun. Okay. If it behaves like a noun, then it has to be a noun clause, right? That's the catch here. You can do the same thing with the object also, because in a given sentence, when you have an English sentence, either the subject or the object or both of them, most of the time, subject and the object, they are nominal. They're always nouns. No other parts of speech, no other segments can take up the role of a subject and an object, right? There has to be some actual referential or at least something that has a nominal function to take up that place. Which is why anything, whether it is the noun itself or a complex clause like this, which performs like a noun, all of it would be, if in a subject or as a object position, it has to be a noun. Okay, understood this part. So two of this subordinate clause, two subordinate clauses in this sentence. The car that I own is not new. First one is that I own, which is the adjectival clause to the noun car, right? It qualifies the noun car. And the car that I own as a whole is the subject of this sentence. And because it's a subject, it is a noun clause, okay? Because subjects are always nouns. Objects are also always nouns, okay? Any question here? I hope you've understood that part. If there are questions, you must ask because we're going to start looking at the exercises now. Any questions?
So noun clause are those clauses which are replaced by the subject, like they replace the subjects. So
No,
where
they don't
wherever
replace the subjects. That's not the right way to understand that. You
used in the place of subject.
so there subjects and objects are always nominal in function. So
Yes.
any segment that occupies the subject position and the object position in a sentence, whether that is a phrase or a clause, they'll also have nominal properties, right? So if it is a clause that occupies the subject position or the object position, then that clause becomes a noun clause. Okay, that's how you that's a trajectory of understanding that. Got it?
Okay.
All right. Okay, so we'll look at the questions then. Now, the first exercise is only for you to, identify the subordinate clauses. So we probably will not look at the kinds of, or maybe let's do one thing. We'll also look at the kind of clauses because it will be a good practice for us. So two things. First, you pick out the subordinate clause for me, and then also tell me what kind of a subordinate clause, whether adjective or adjectival or adverbial or noun. Okay. There are one or two sentences which are a little different from these three. I will talk about them while, we'll take a look at it. But let's start with this. Also, do not forget the relative pronouns or what we also call as subordinating conjunctions, right? So that, what, where, which, when, whose, who, these are all what we call as subordinating conjunctions. In linguistics, we also refer to them as relative pronouns. Okay, but you can, for the ease of understanding, maybe remember them as subordinate conjunctions. Okay, okay. Let's start this one. Everybody knows that he is an able instructor. What is your? This one is more or less like done for you, but let's discuss anyway. What's your subordinate clause here?
That he is an able instructor.
So that he is an able instructor is your subordinate clause. Okay. What kind of clause is this? Everybody knows that he's an able instructor. Whoever is giving the answer, I want you to also explain why. Okay. So that he is an able instructor is the subordinate clause. And what kind of subordinate clause is this?
Is it adjective because it shows the ability of the instructor? I think.
Okay, that you need to tell me. Does it show the ability of? So what is it showing the ability of? Who? That he's an able instructor, is it giving you any additional information about a noun that he's an able instructor? That whole part, that he's an able instructor, which you picked out as the subordinate clause. Is that giving any additional information about a noun here?
Yes, ma'am, about the instructor.
But instructor is a part of that clause. It is not outside it. If it has to provide an information, then it has to be outside that clause, right? If that unit acts as an adjective, then there should be something outside that clause which it is qualifying. Instructor is within that clause. That he's an able instructor. Others?
I think it's adverbial.
Okay.
It's
So now we
noun.
only have,
Ma'am,
now
noun.
you've given all the answers. Which is the actual answer?
Adverb.
This is a noun clause. We just discussed this one, right? What did I say? Anything that occupies subject or object position. Look at the sentence as a whole. Everybody knows that he is an able instructor. What is the subject of the sentence?
Everybody
Everybody. What is the verb in the sentence?
knows.
No.
No. Now what is left? Everybody knows is not like a full sentence. Like knows is not a, it's not an intransitive verb. It requires an object, right? Everybody knows what? Everybody knows that he's an able instructor. So isn't that he's an able instructor the object of the verb no here?
Yes, ma'am.
So if it's an object, then it has to be a noun clause, right? So this one is a noun clause, right? Okay. So also analyze, when you have complex constructions, complex clause constructions in subject object positions, analyze the sentence. So even without that, even before you look at anything else, when you want to understand the kind of clause, please read the sentence as a whole. Okay, first. And first thing you need to do is see what is the subject of the sentence, what is the verb of the sentence, what is the object of the sentence, if there is an object, that is. Right? Have this synthesis, break it up in your mind a little bit, and then analyze the components. Just break it down into smaller chunks, the sentence, right? And then you can analyze. Because see, sentences are modularly built, right? So with each module being different segments, right? One being subject and then object and verb and all that. So if you analyze it like that through synthesis, it's easier for you to understand, especially, topics like these, subordinate clauses and dependent clauses and all. It's better understood that way. Okay, let's go to the next one, see if we can do this one. He saw the trouble that wrong companionship can cause. He saw the trouble that wrong companionship. So first, tell me what the subordinate clause is, and then we move on to discussing what the type is.
That wrong companionship can cause.
Okay. That wrong companionship can cause. Now you think, what is the function of that clause in the sentence?
Adjectival.
Adverbial.
He saw the trouble that wrong companionship can cause. Okay. What is the answer? Whatever your answer is, let me know why. So somebody said adjectival. Why do you think this is adjectival? Go ahead. Why is this adjectival? You should speak. You should be.
Adverbial.
What is it? Sorry, I did not hear you.
It's adverbial because it's not giving a reason, so it can't be. Well, it's giving a reason. It's not telling addition information, so it can't be adjectival.
Okay. How is it giving you a reason? How do you know it is giving a reason? He saw the trouble that wrong companionship can cause.
Yes, ma'am. That wrong companionship can cause, so it's giving a reason, kind of thing.
And that is not giving a reason, right? It does not give you a sense of reason anywhere here. He saw the trouble that wrong companionship can cause. See, just because you have words like because and cause, it's not necessary, or even for that matter, you have a word like why, it doesn't mean that it's a reason all the time, right? That wrong companionship can cause is not giving us any reason.
Ma'am, it's
What is it
additional
doing?
information, no, ma'am.
It is additional information, exactly. So he saw what? He saw the trouble that wrong companionship can cause. The trouble that wrong companionship can cause. Okay. What kind of trouble? The trouble that wrong companionship can cause, right? So this is basically what? This is an adjectival clause, right? You have the word trouble here, and that trouble is being qualified by that wrong companionship can cause. It's not any trouble we are talking about. We are talking about the trouble that wrong companionship can cause. It's adjectival, additional information. Okay. So one more thing is, don't fall for the traps laid using words, right? You don't think that, because I have a word like because and cause and why, this is
Ma'am,
this is adverbial.
sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Adjectival clause gives additional information about the subject, which is
Not about the subject, about the noun.
now. Sorry. And the adverbial clause provides additional information about verb or another
Adverbial,
adjective.
no. You're getting, adverbial clauses don't provide you any additional information. They tell you the way, or, it gives you, information about the time, place, location, the manner, and the reasons for why a verb or something has happened, for the action, not verb, for the action, right? So it's
Okay.
mostly related to the verb. It tells you about the manner, place, time, reason, so on and so forth, purpose, so on and so forth for the action to take place, right?
Okay.
Yeah, adjectives are solely connected only to nouns. If you get some additional information on the noun, then the associated word can be called an adjective or adjectival clause for that matter. Okay. Right. So here, then that wrong companionship can cause, I hope you understood why we call this an adjectival clause. Okay. So because it's giving you additional information about the noun trouble, right? The trouble is what is being qualified here. The trouble that wrong companionship can cause. Okay. Now, third one, let's keep it for the moment. I do not know, is non-finite clause, infinitable clauses, were they part of this lecture? I know it is there, but not sure if it was part of this lecture. Did you have non-finite clauses?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. So we for the time being, we'll just skip talking about it because I don't want to confuse you at this moment. We'll leave the third one. We'll go to not fourth one, sixth one is also the same. No, sixth one should be, let me try doing this with you. So look at sixth one. Learning a foreign language is no easy task. Learning a foreign language is no easy task. So the difference here is that in adjectival, adverbial, and noun clauses, maybe not noun, even noun clauses will have subordinating conjunctions, right? Like you will find one of those conjunctions, that or which or who or whose or when, something like that. But this one is a different kind of clause. This will not carry any subordinating conjunction, yet it contains a subordinating conjunction. So let's see if we can do one of this. Although I don't think you will have questions like this for exams. It's not a part of your thing. But let's look at the sixth sentence at least. Learning a foreign language is no easy task. So which part is a subordinate clause? What do you think is in this particular sentence?
Is no easy task.
So, okay, let's begin like this. What do you think is the subject, verb, object of this sentence? Or subject and predicate. Let's not talk about object because you don't have an action word here. So, what is the subject here? What is the predicate here? Sixth sentence. You know subject, predicate, right? Verb plus the rest of the thing, that is predicate.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, it is imperative sentence, so it's subject you.
No, what was the subject? Sorry, repeat yourself.
It is imperative sentence, so the subject of this sentence is you.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you properly, Deepak. Are you saying that there is no predicate? I did not hear you properly.
I'm audible, ma'am? No?
Now you're audible, yes.
Yes, ma'am. I am telling that this is imperative sentence. So
Imperative sentence. This is not an imperative sentence. Imperative sentences don't look like this. Imperative sentences will not have a subject, right? So something like, go slow. This is an imperative sentence. But this one has a subject. This is a sentence with subject, verb, and not object. Let's say it has both subject and predicate.
So,
Tell me what is the predicate of the sentence first. Predicate.
It's no easy task, ma'am.
Is no easy task. Is no easy. See, predicate is verb plus the rest of whatever comes after it, right? I did not use the word object here because is not a action word, right? It's an auxiliary. It's used more like an auxiliary. So this one it will not have an object, which is why I use the word predicate. So is no easy task. The verb plus whatever follows it is your predicate. So is no easy task is your predicate. So what is learning a foreign language then?
Subject.
Subject. That's a subject. So learning a foreign language is no easy task. What is not an easy task? Learning a foreign language. So if it is a subject, then what is that clause?
Is no easy task.
No. If
Noun
learning a foreign
clause.
language is your subject, yeah, it's a noun clause, right? So anything that takes up your subject position is your noun clause. Now, learning a foreign language by itself is a different kind of clause. We're not going to discuss about it for you. We call it the infinitival clause or non-finite clause. But in the sentence, it functions as a noun clause. Okay. Learning a foreign language is no easy task. Here it is a noun clause because it is the subject of the sentence. Okay. Got it? Don't worry about it. Since it was on the list, I wanted to discuss it with you. I don't think you will get questions of this order. But whatever your question is, whatever the type of clause involved is, whatever the kind of clause involved is, the function, if you know the functions of each of the clause, then it is easy for you to understand, whether it is noun, adjective, or adjective. Okay. Next one, the only problem, seventh one. This is the only problem in work is to relate work to people's needs. To relate work to people's needs. The only problem in work is to relate work to people's needs. Which part of this is subordinate clause?
To relate work to people's needs.
Yeah, to relate work to people's needs. Now, this one is also a different kind of clause. It is not your traditional adjectival or adverbial or noun clause, right? Because again, if you look at it carefully, this one also doesn't have a subordinating conjunction, right? It doesn't have a that or which or whose or when or anything. It says to relate work to people's needs. This is another kind of infinitival clauses. But in this sentence, what is its role? Is it noun, adjective, or adverbial? The only problem in work is to relate work to people's need.
Adjectival.
No. Look at it carefully. The only problem in work is to relate work to people's need. What is the only
Noun?
problem in work? Noun, right? Again, noun, because it is in the predicate, right? Which means it's not an object per se, but it is in the object position, in the predicate, right? So I can ask a question. The only problem in work is what, right? And my answer is to relate work to people's needs. So anything that answers the question what has to be noun, right? This is a noun clause again. To relate work to people's needs. Okay. Understood? Anybody, any question? You have any confusions with this one? If you have any, you can ask. Okay, clear? Clear why we call this the noun clause, right? Yes, no? Okay, next one would be, I believe that a hot, humid summer has benefited the hotel business. Hotel, actually. I believe that a hot, humid summer has benefited the hotel business.
That a hot, humid summer has benefited the.
Which one? Sorry, louder.
Starting from, I think, that to the end.
Starting from that, right? That a hot, humid summer has benefited the hotel business, right? What kind of subordinate clause is this? I believe you're right. So the subordinate clause is correct. Now, what kind of subordinate clause?
Noun? Adverbial.
Verbier.
Noun. Very good. Yes, you've already answered. People have answered noun has got the knack of looking at it, right? It's a noun clause because I believe what, right? The clause literally sits in the object position. That a hot, humid summer has benefited the hotel business. Okay. I subject believe verb and the whole of that clause is the object to the verb believe, right? So noun clause.
I have a small query, ma'am.
Sorry?
I have a small query. How can we differentiate between?
How can we differentiate, Deepak? I cannot hear you properly, but is your question, how can you differentiate? I just heard till differentiate. I didn't know what was followed after that.
Differentiate between noun clause and adverbial clause, because in this sentence we can call.
Now you have to answer that question for me. So if you call this an adverbial clause, it needs to give you some information about the place, time, manner, or reason, or purpose, or something. No, does it give you anything?
It is.
If you analyze it in that way, you should know the role of an adverb, right? So if you're calling it adverbial, then that clause should give you some information that adverb is able to give you in a sentence. So analyze it that way. Is it giving you anything like that? As in the whole clause, not parts of it, okay? The whole clause has to give you some information regarding the action that has taken place. Does it give you anything?
No, ma'am.
No, right? So then it can't be adverbial. It's definitely not adjectival, because if it has to be an adjective, there needs to be a noun that it qualifies. There is no other noun present there. What will you qualify, right? So it is simply a clause that is taking up. It's a complex object. Instead of using it as a one word, you are given a whole clause. So see, I can. The test for noun clause is also if you can replace it with a noun, another noun or pronoun. If you can use to replace that whole clause, then it is a noun clause. So say, I believe, something like, I believe, okay, believe is a problematic noun, verb. It probably needs something that is complex. One word cannot fit it. But if you take the example, everybody knows, right? The first sentence that we have, everybody knows. Can I replace it with another noun or pronoun? Everybody knows. For example, everybody knows him, or everybody knows you. Can I replace that he's an able instructor with one of these?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
or say everybody knows John, right? So if the given complex of clause is replaceable with another noun, right, then it is again a noun clause, and we are able to replace it because that clause is performing the noun's role there. Okay, so you can use this diagnostics also. If you can replace it with a noun, if it answers the question what, if it can be replaced using another noun or a pronoun, then it is a noun clause. You can use these two tests also to figure out whether a given clause is a noun or not. Okay, Deepak?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I got it.
Okay.
Thank
Now, ninth one, I listened to what his friend had to say. I listened to what his friend had to say.
What his friend had to say.
I listened to correct. So I listened to what his friend had to say. This part is going to what his friend had to say is your subordinate clause. Now, what kind of subordinate clause is this?
Noun.
Noun. Yeah. So I listened to what? I listened to what his friend had to say. Okay. So what is your subordinating conjunction or your relative pronoun here? And what his friend had to say is your noun clause. Okay. He gave his parents what they wanted. He gave his parents what they wanted.
What they wanted and noun
What they
clause.
wanted. And it is a
Noun clause.
noun clause, right? So this is a noun clause because your verb here is give. Give is a ditransitive verb, so it can take two objects, right? First object is which one? Which is the direct object? He gave his parents what they wanted. Direct object, give is ditransitive, which means it has two objects. So it will have direct and indirect objects. Which one is direct?
He.
Objects. He is subject.
Sorry.
Direct object is?
His parents.
Pay.
No. Direct objects is what they wanted. Okay. He gave whatever is the answer to that question, that is your direct object. Who he gave is your indirect object, right? So he gave his parents what they wanted. So what they wanted is the direct object. His parents is the indirect object. Okay. To whom or for whom is always the indirect. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. 11th one, whoever said that does not understand the question. Whoever said that does not understand the question.
That does
Subject.
not understand the question.
That does not understand the question is your subordinate clause. What kind of clause is that?
Noun.
Noun clause, okay. So if I ask a question, whoever said what, will what answer the question that does not understand the question?
No, ma'am.
Or is it even like
Is it
sensible to ask a question like that? Whoever said what? Even if I ask the answer that does not understand the question, will it make any sense?
no, it's adjectival because it's providing additional information about the.
This is Praveen, right? Praveen, your voice, I'm struggling to hear you.
Yeah,
Speak a little loudly.
I'm saying that it's adjectival clause, I think.
Okay, which part is the subordinate clause first? You tell me that, and then we can discuss what type it is. Are you saying that does not understand the question is adjectival? Is that so? Okay, now do one thing for me. Tell me what is the subject. Okay, forget about subject right now. Tell me what is the verb in this sentence. What is the main verb in this sentence?
Said.
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 Look at it closely. I will tell you why you are getting confused in this one, but look closely. I'll give you one more minute to look at that. Whoever said
Understand.
that. Understand is your main verb here. Okay. I'm saying main verb because it also has does here, right? So it uses an auxiliary, but your main verb is understand. So does not understand is then the verbal complex here. Of course, there's a negation also there. Does not understand is your verb here. Now, can you look at this sentence if this is the verb, main verb?
I think it has this sentence has two clauses.
Sorry? Sentence is what? I did not hear you again.
It has, I think, two clauses.
It has two clauses. No, it only has one clause.
Ma'am, I think whoever said is a dependent clause.
Whoever said that is your subordinate clause. Does not understand is your verb here, right? With understand being the main verb. The question is your object, okay? Whoever said that does not understand what? Whoever said that does not understand the question. So the question is your object, okay? Does not understand is your verb. Whoever said that, this part, right? That is your, let me go to the main document. So, does not understand is your verb, right? The question is your object, and whoever said that is your subject. Whoever said that. Okay, whoever said that is the subject. Now, this is what then a noun clause. Okay? So, the plain point being that language is complex. You can have constructions which are not easily accessible to us as, it's straight away, giving a straight away answer is sometimes difficult. You have to look closely. And the major task, which is why I told you when you have a sentence to analyze, first go for the, analysis part, break it open into subject, verb, object. Forget about subject and object also. First, pick out the main verb from the sentence to understand how this is, put together. Because verb is the main part around which other things are organized in a sentence, right? So if you have a grasp on what the main verb in the sentence is or the verb of the sentence is, then other parts become easier for us to analyze. Okay? So whoever said that is your subject, does not understand is your verb, and the question is your object. Understood? Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay, are you okay?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So 12th one, drugs that are used in chemotherapy. If you haven't understood, please ask. Okay, don't hesitate. That's okay. It's, I mean, no one is expected to know it right away because these are things that come to us only through closer analysis, right? And don't worry, because this is a session meant for practicing these things. If it offers you any relief, your question patterns you have already seen in exams. So complicated questions won't show up, but it's always nice to look at complex part because this is English too, right? We are supposed to do it in an advanced way. But anyways, so in the exams, you don't get it this complicated. But have a look at these kind of construction once in a while, because beyond the exams, the purpose is also that we gain certain advanced proficiency in using English, right? So it's good to meet such sentences at least in passing so that we know how complex this process is, right? It is simple, but if we are not used to it, then it can look complex to us, right? So sorry if the sentence bothered you, but I wanted you to have a look at these constructions as well, right? That is what makes us capable of using or writing and speaking good sentences like a proficient user. So it's good.
Actually, ma'am, actually I have passed English too, but I have problems in these topics, so that's why I have joined.
Very nice. You're most welcome to come and attend the sessions. No issues. I see a few names once in a while, which it keeps me guessing that I've seen these people many times. So I did not know that you guys have access to the sessions also. So now it clarifies.
Yes, ma'am. Our last session was the resume, I think email writing session.
Yes, correct. Oh, yes, I remember. Correct. Okay. Right. So 12th one, drugs that are used in chemotherapy damage patients' healthy cells as well. There are just four more questions. We'll finish this and close for today. The drugs that are used in chemotherapy damage a patient's healthy cells as well. This one is sort of done for you. You can maybe take a look at it. Drugs that are used in chemotherapy damage a patient's healthy cells.
That are used in chemotherapy.
Correct. And what is that? Drugs that are used in chemotherapy
Noun
that
clause.
are used in chemotherapy is what kind of subordinate clause?
Noun clause, ma'am.
Noun clause?
Sorry, adjective.
Adjectival, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do others also understand? You can also see that it is adjectival, right?
Yes, ma'am. It's providing additional information about the drugs.
Correct. So that part is giving you additional information about drugs, which is a noun. So drugs, what kind of drugs? Drugs that are used in chemotherapy, right? So that are used in chemotherapy is your adjectival clause, okay? Others, if you have questions, I can only say, please ask. It has to be materialized by you. If you have not understood, then you should, there is no problem here in asking us any questions. Feel free to ask in case, even if it's a silly question, it's all right. There's nothing called a silly question. If it is required for your clarification, you're always welcome to ask any question. Okay. Right. The doctors battled, 13th one, the doctors battled a deadly virus fueled by a lackadaisical public. Doctors battled a deadly virus fueled by a lackadaisical public.
By a lackadaisical public.
By a lackadaisical public, it's not a clause. It is not a clause because see, you're forgetting the condition. If it has to be a clause, where is your verb? It's not there, right?
Virus fueled by a lackadaisical public.
Virus fueled by a okay. So pick out the verb for me in this.
Battled.
Battled, right? Battled. The doctors battled. Battled is your main verb. So the doctors battled a deadly virus fueled by a lackadaisical public. This probably has more than one subordinate clause, but at least pick out one for me.
Fueled by
Actually,
a
only one. There's actually only one. Yeah.
So it starts from fueled and it's
Correct. Fueled by a lackadaisical public, right? So what kind of subordinate clause is this?
Adverb.
Is it adverbial or
Adjectival.
adjective? Again, this is adjective. So a deadly virus fueled by a lackadaisical public. What kind of virus? Fueled by a deadly virus, fueled by a lackadaisical public, right? So fueled by a lackadaisical public is a part of it, gives you additional information about the deadly virus. Okay. What kind of virus? The one fueled by a lackadaisical public. Okay. All right. Then
Ma'am,
comes
a question. Is indifferent a synonym of a lackadaisical?
yes. Yes. Indifferent is it's a kind of synonym for lackadaisical public. Okay. Someone who's indifferent, someone who doesn't care, that is lackadaisical, irresponsible in some sense. Lackadaisical is more closer to the word irresponsible and indifferent. Okay.
Okay.
14th one, scientists found no evidence to suggest that neutrinos have mass. Now, there are double brackets indicated, which means there's more than one subordinate clauses. But I'm not going to ask you about the type of one of that. I'll only be concerned with the second one. But there are two clauses here. Okay. Tell me what those are. It's already marked, actually. Scientists found no evidence. So scientist is your subject, right? Find is your main verb. Scientists found no evidence to suggest that neutrinos have mass. So to suggest that neutrinos have mass, that whole part would be a subordinate clause. And within that, in that subordinate clause, again, you have another one within that whole clause, that neutrinos have mass. Okay. To suggest that neutrinos have mass. So what is this that neutrinos have mass? Scientists found no evidence to suggest what, right? I can ask the question to suggest what. To suggest is again, because of the presence of infinitive verb, right? To suggest is infinitive. This is a infinitival subordinate clause. Of which the object is that neutrinos have mass. To suggest what? To suggest that neutrinos have mass. So what kind of subordinate clause? Noun clause. Okay. To suggest that neutrinos have mass, that neutrinos have mass is noun clause. Now, 15th one. When a heart attack occurs, the electronic device automatically produces charges of electricity that jolt the heart back into normal rhythm. Okay. Tell me what are the subordinate clauses, or what is the clause and what type are they? First, tell me what clause do you see as subordinate here?
Starting from that to the
that jolt the heart back into a normal rhythm. Okay, that is one of the subordinate clause, correct? And anything else?
And I think from the electronic to rhythm.
From the electronic to rhythm? No, that is an independent clause. That whole part would be considered an independent
when a
clause.
heart attack occurs.
When a heart attack occurs, right? The very beginning part, when a heart attack occurs, because it has the verb occur, no? So that's also a clause. When a heart attack occurs is a subordinate clause. It has a verb, but then again, it's not complete. You need the second half of the independent clause, right? You require that whole independent clause that follows occurs to complete the sense of when a heart attack occurs. So when a heart attack occurs is also a subordinate clause, right? When is the subordinating conjunction, relative pronoun. Okay. So when a heart attack occurs and that jolt the heart back into a normal rhythm, both of them are subordinate clauses. What kind of clause is that jolt the heart back into normal rhythm?
That jolt part is, I think, adjectival.
That jolt the heart back into normal rhythm is adjectival. What is it modifying?
The electronic device, I think.
No, not electronic devices.
Electricity.
Charges of electricity that jolt the heart back. Okay.
Okay,
So it is modifying the noun charges of electricity. What does it say? Charges of electricity that jolt the heart back into. So it's talking about the charges of electricity, that particular noun. Okay, noun phrase. And when a heart attack occurs, it's easy, right? When a heart attack occurs, it's
Noun
telling you
clause.
about the event. No, not noun. Read the sentence entirely, no, before answering. When a heart attack occurs, the electronic device, when does all this thing happen? When does the electronic device automatically produce charges of electricity, so on and so forth?
Adverbial.
Adverbial. Adverbial.
Yes,
It directly tells you the time when all these things happens, right? Or the occasion in which all of this happens. So, adverbial. Then the last one here. Reflecting on the past 3 years, she wondered whether she could have made better decisions.
Whether she could have made better decisions.
Very good. Whether she could have made better decisions. And what kind of clause is that? Which one? Sorry.
Noun clause.
Noun clause. Noun clause. Okay. So she wondered what? She wondered whether she could have been, could have made better decisions, right? So answers the question what? Whether she could have made better decisions, occupy the object position of the clause she wondered, so on and so forth, right? So it is an object to the verb wonder in that sentence. So it's a noun clause. There's one more in this, reflecting on the past 3 years. That is also a subordinate clause. Okay.
It is
Reflecting on the past
adverbial.
3 years. Sorry?
This part is adverbial, I think.
This part is adverbial because it tells you how.
Yes.
How she wondered, reflecting on the past 3 years, she wondered whether she could have made better decisions. Right. So since it gives you information on the question how, this is also an adverbial clause, right? Although we have no indications of a relative pronoun or a word which can lead us to the conclusion that it is adverbial, but based on the meaning that it generates, based on its function in the sentence, we know that this is adverbial, right? Okay. Okay, all right. So we'll do more. There are more exercises, although these sentences are like the tougher ones. The ones which we'll be discussing the next week, they're easier ones. Okay. So if you have had an understanding of what each type of subordinate clauses look like and what their functions are, then the other questions that we'll do next week won't be very difficult for you. Okay. Right. So thank you for joining in today. If you have questions, keep writing to us. If there's anything that is unclarified, then I'll make an effort to clarify all of them. Okay.
Sure.
So we'll see you again next week. Thank you everyone for joining in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.